And we'll probably still have people coming along and joining us here in just a second. But so, hey, Marquetta. Hey, Pygmy Poacher. Marquetta, if you're still out there, can you let everybody in the group know that we're live now so they can come over and join us? We've got a great guest, Carter Buschardt, on the show with us tonight, and he's going to be sharing some information with us tonight about Bigfoot. And I didn't ask you this, Carter. Are you also able to talk about Dogman too? I know you're mostly Bigfoot researcher. Have you heard people
Yeah,
talk
I've
about it?
taken a few reports. They've just started trickling into me because I've been focused primarily on Sasquatch. I was
Mm-hmm.
with BFRO for years, so uh, I still am with them technically. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but in the last year, I guess since 2019, I've taken two reports and I've been given a photo of one that was taken by a witness uh, in Illinois.
Oh wow.
Um, I don't have it up, or I'd show it to you. I haven't published it anywhere yet because I told him I wouldn't. But it's a photo of a photo. It's got a great
Okay.
backstory to it, but it's the photo is just kind of funky because I had to take a picture of the photo on the seat of my car.
In order, yeah, I got you.
It's one of those things, and I thought he was going to hand me a disc or something, but no, his well, it's a long story. I can go into that, but I don't. I have a pretty interesting photo, but it's not one I can show you. You know.
I just wondered, like, so with your research, like, basically, can you tell everybody how you got into your Bigfoot research? And I've seen that you're an author of your book too. I wanted to hear more some of the discussion that you were discussing last night on their show. But if you could kind of just introduce yourself, these are his books that he's going to be. You're going to be? Are you going to be at this conference with us, Carter? The one that Josh is having.
Tennessee?
And yeah,
Nah, nah.
that's his
But,
book, Sasquatch: Evidence
yeah,
of the Enigma.
yeah. One and two.
I'm gonna have to order those because I really like what I was
They're
hearing last
really
night.
they're very nice books. Not because I wrote them, but they're all in color and they're in the nice glossy paper. I autograph them, of course.
Yes.
And I sell them myself, the color versions. I've also got a book deal with Beyond the Fray Publishing, and they sell
Oh.
my black and white books on Amazon as well as the Kindle. So I sell my color books because they were going to be too expensive for them to produce.
Mhm.
So I'm self-produced. I'm self-published. So I sell them out of my house, and it's cheaper than they could even begin to sell them. So
I can
so
imagine.
well, I got into Sasquatch research. I got interested when I was 10 years old, and I saw the show In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy. You probably heard that 1,000 times, but they had
Yes.
the Patterson Gimlin film on there, and I was like a 8, 9, 10-year-old kid. I was going, "Ooh, I want to do that. That's cool. That's great." I mean, uh, since I was 10, I've just known without getting into great detail that there's something else going on in the world. I just
Mhm.
knew deep inside of my little 10-year-old self that there was something else going on in the universe and the world that we're living on the planet Earth than other than what they were telling us. Couldn't tell you
Right.
how I knew that. I didn't know until 2006 how I knew all
Mhm.
that at the age of 10, but that's a whole nother story. Got a
Wow.
lot of whole other stories. So anyway, I saw that show and just thought, oh my God, that is so intriguing, and of course everybody said it was fake and a bunch of hooey and all that. But uh, what got me into Sasquatch research officially was my wife and I went to Washington State about 15 years ago, just on vacation, rented a cabin out in the middle of nowhere, and we were hiking in the woods, and I found a, a geocache. You know what that is?
No, I've never heard of that.
Geocache, Cache, geocache, like a stash. Geocache is this
Yeah.
big thing that started about 10, 12, 15 years ago, where you're given coordinates and just geographical coordinates, and you have to go find people leave things at this certain coordinates.
Yeah, I've heard
And
of that.
yeah, you go find the box or whatever item it is,
Mhm.
and you take something out that's in there, and then you put something else in that's yours. And so you trade it out, and then you close it back up. And then somebody else will come along and find it, and they'll take something out and put something in of theirs. So my wife and I are walking in the woods, and I am watching for a place to relieve myself. I go to this big tree, step around the backside of the tree, and as I'm looking down, just checking the ground before I let myself go, and there's this ammo box, and it's chained to this tree, a big, humongous redwood. And so I'm going, I wonder what this is. And I was not aware of this until that very moment. I thought, well, maybe I found somebody's drug stash because they had just legalized marijuana in Washington State at the time.
Wow.
And so there was a lot of people still growing pot out in the forest, the national forest. And it was actually kind of dangerous to be out there because they were very protective of their stash, But since they legalized pot, the threat was gone as far as that goes. Anyway, I saw this box. I'm going, oh, what is this? This is weird. And I thought, well, I did find a drug stash, so maybe it's booby trapped or something. So I kind of went behind the tree and grabbed a stick and opened it up, and nothing happened. So I looked inside, and I found a bunch of stuff in there. But I found a business card of a Sasquatch researcher for BFRO. I went, okay, this is supposed to happen because I had a dying interest to get into it, and I didn't know how. So I found the card, took the card. I left something of mine in there. I don't remember what it was. Locked it back up. And when I got home, I emailed the guy, called him, and got me hooked up with the BFRO here in Missouri, where I live.
Right.
And that's 2008, 9, 10, somewhere in there. I can't remember exactly. And so I got on an expedition and became an investigator. I started doing expeditions for them. I took over for the guy that was doing it because he wasn't doing a really great job, apparently. So I've been researching for 11, 12, 13 years. And
oh, wow.
Here I am. I've written 4 books that have been condensed into 2 books, Sasquatch Evidence of an Enigma, books 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had 100 reports published to BFRO. Probably spoken to about 350, 400 witnesses and counting, getting all kinds of stuff, And I wrote the first book. I was making the podcast rounds. I probably do 45 to 60 of these every year. And during a show on Sasquatch Chronicles,
yes,
people were calling in and going, oh my God, I got to tell you, because I have a very, very open mind, and I've experienced some paranormal quantum physics type events myself. So
wow.
I know there's much more to them than just a dumb ape. I don't subscribe to the dumb ape theory. I believe they come and go at will and can do whatever they want. But anyway, so these people just started bombarding me with all these stories of things, and they just were afraid to say anything because they get ridiculed and made fun of from everybody. So they just shut up. There's a humongous untapped source of information that people won't talk about because they don't want to be made fun of. And the people that make fun of them are the worst offenders are their spouses, their family,
their friends, co-workers, all that.
You tell your husband or your wife or significant other, whatever you got, that you saw a Sasquatch, and it's like, oh, really? Uh-huh. Well,
and it's even worse with Dogman. Yeah.
Dogman, a Mothman, whatever it is. So that's how I got into it. But the second book came about. The second book is probably 80% off the wall, paranormal, quantum events. And these people, I say, I'm not going to tell anybody who you are. I'm not going to tell them where you live. It doesn't matter. It just matters what you experienced. Let's talk about it, and let's see if we can come up with an answer. If we can't, then hey, you're onto something. So that's where I'm at. So the first book and all the talk shows I was doing created the second book. It created a monster. So
yes. Now that's what I was wanting to talk to you about. That the paranormal or metaphysical aspect of them. So some of the things that y'all discussed on the show last night that I found very interesting was the aspect that they can cloak or they can disappear at will. I've never had any Bigfoot sightings that I know of. I've seen things on pictures after the fact, but I was actually recording Dogman. A lot of people don't think that they're together in the same area, but you see them a lot of the times in the same pictures, sometimes together, and it's like, wow, that's interesting. But
Yeah, I think they're in the
I've
same.
seen them
I think
disappear.
they have the same territory. You know, they may not hang out and go patrolling together, but I think they feed and live in nearly the identical territory, as far as I can tell. Because I've had a couple of reports given to me from people who saw a Sasquatch,
Mm-hmm.
and then after that Sasquatch had left the area, as they were hightailing it out of there because they were freaked out. Then they report a dog man to me, and those just started coming in the last year or so. I mean, I've gotten two, plus the photo I was telling you about. That it's a very intriguing photo, but the first time I saw one, I've not had a daylight sighting. I've seen Sasquatch 3 times, all at night. The
Okay.
first time I saw one, it vanished. And I was watching for somebody else that was lost, and I
Mm-hmm.
was leading an expedition, and I'd quit recording, of course, to save my battery, which I'll never ever do again because I missed the time to record. This thing vanished, but I saw this light, this light source coming around the bend, and I was certain it was on thermal camera, so I was very certain it was the group of people that were lost.
Mm-hmm.
And I just was waiting for them to come around the corner so I could say, "Hey, everybody, they're here." It wasn't them, it was a Sasquatch. It walked around the corner, took one step, the second step, it just poof,
Mm-mm.
the entire heat signature just exploded like a flash bulb, and it left like a little smoke ring, almost like someone blew a Sasquatch smoke ring, and the heat signature just dissipated and faded into the night, and it was gone. So right then and there, I'm going, okay, uh, this is not a dumb ape, and I am no longer listening to "It's a flesh and blood only." You
I
just
love it.
once you see that, you just go. I was baptized right then and there. It was like boom. So
That
I've been.
took you from believing that they were only flesh and blood to realizing that there's something extra to them at that moment. And I was going to ask you, do you think? Because I feel like there's several different theories to these creatures, Dogman and Bigfoot. When it comes down to it, I
Mhm.
wonder, are there some that are flesh and blood only? But then are there also some of each one of those? Are there also some that are both flesh and blood and spiritual at the same time, or are they only metaphysical? What are your
I
thoughts?
think I think my belief, because I have no evidence, nobody has evidence. I'm not an expert. Nobody is an expert. But my belief is, with what I've seen and what people have told me, is that they can come and go at will through
Mm-hmm.
this dimension, and they can change their vibrational frequency and disappear and go into another dimension, or they can appear
Yes.
to disappear, but they're still
Mm.
there. Because I've just seen and heard too many things, and the people are telling me things. That in my second book here, this guy in Canada has been going through this for 40 plus years. 40 years. Uh,
Yes.
and it's the same two or three Sasquatch that he's been dealing with since he's 66 now, and it probably started when he was 13. He didn't really get a grasp until he was in his later teens that, oh wow, this is real. That's a Sasquatch. This
Yeah.
is this is not me tripping, on just seeing things. This is like real stuff. So, but he's had this one Sasquatch we call Zap has put his hands through his window while he was standing outside on his deck, touched him to the forehead, knocked him out, zapped him, knocked him to the floor.
Oh my God.
And as
Wait a
far as
minute.
he knows, he was dead. He
Wait,
was
did you say
dead.
he was outside? It was on his deck, and he was in the. How was this now?
Yeah. Well, he'd been having these visions of these beings coming and going off the deck. Now he lives in BC, Canada, British Columbia, and he's moved from that location, but he's still up in Canada. But he saw something moving, and he was looking, and the window in his bedroom looks out over his deck, which looks out over this lake, this big, beautiful lake up in
Yeah.
British Columbia. And he saw something moving. It was about dusk, and he started looking, and he saw this little, looked like a little hurricane, like a little ball of gnats. And it turned out to be a female Sasquatch who was materializing. Now this guy's not nuts. He's a loner, but he's not nuts. He doesn't do drugs. He still has a flip phone in 2022. Doesn't do Facebook. None of that stuff. The only internet he gets is on his phone. He doesn't have a computer. He doesn't do any of that stuff. And so he was watching, and then this big, big Sasquatch stood up on the deck and started walking, and his deck was buckling. Now the floors for his deck came into the house and went all the way through the house, and so basically his cabin was built on this gigantic deck, and that was the floor for his cabin, fairly rustic. And so, long story short, he was trying to get David's attention, and he just wasn't paying attention, and so he got up close to him, and he made a couple of movements, and he's going, how did you do that? Because he started walking, and I don't know if you've heard about the locomotion, but their feet are going like 1,000 miles an hour. Looks like the Road Runner, but it's only moving at a regular pace. Like the upper body is just moving and gliding, but the feet are like going like a buzzsaw.
Oh my God.
You know what I'm talking about with the
No,
Road
yeah.
Runner? Yeah, the cartoon. It's
Crazy.
that fast, whirlwind thing. And he's going, what is that? What is that? Come on, you're just messing with. I mean, he was just at that time he was kind of freaking. So this Sasquatch comes up to him and puts his hand right through his window and puts it right on his forehead, knocks him out just like that.
Wow.
He woke up and he was at standing height, but he was looking down at his body, and he was dead. As far as he was there, he was dead. He was having an out of body. He was dead and on his way up. And the Sasquatch basically told him, you need to pay attention to what I'm trying to show you. And so he said, you go back down, lay down on your bed. He laid back down on his bed, and he suddenly got back up, and he wasn't down there on the floor, and everything was back to normal. To this day, he still has a dead patch of skin right here.
Oh my God.
Forehead. He just told me that about a week ago. I still stay in touch with him about every 3 or 4 months. We'll just call, chat. And so, but he didn't, that's one thing he never told me at the time. But he has seen them disappear, reappear. They pop up whenever they want. I've got so many people telling me the same thing. They're hearing voices, disembodied voices. I've heard voices. I get visions at night when I try to go to sleep at night and I'm meditating. I'll get visions, and they're speaking to me and telling me what I'm seeing is their home. So what I'm saying is there's so much more to these beings, and if someone was to tell you, Bettina, that I just saw this and that, and they're a good friend of yours, boyfriend, girlfriend, mom, dad, whatever, your best friend tells you something, are you going to discount them?
Well, it depends on who they are, like their credibility, if they're a jokester, if they're on drugs, but if they're pretty credible.
A very good personal friend, someone like.
Yes. No, I'm not going to, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah. Well, see, I can't do that either when these people are telling me things, because they're spilling their guts and they're telling me things. I can see Call of the Crow, flesh and blood or dimensional. I believe both. I believe they can operate in both planes, just to answer that question. But when they tell you these things and you can see the tears, you can hear and feel the emotion, these people aren't jacking you around. They're sincere. They're having these events, and some of them, it changes them. It changes your whole view on life,
Absolutely.
And so when they're so devastated, that they can hardly even get it out. They're not hoaxing. They're not making this stuff. They don't need any. They don't get any attention from me because I don't tell anybody who they are. I don't tell anybody where they live. I don't give them any money. I may put their story in a book, but that's about it. So they're not getting anything out of it, unless they're getting their jollies out of pranking an old Sasquatch researcher. That was funny.
Well, that's true. And then a lot of the times, some people don't even want to really share their encounters, publicly. A lot of people want to remain anonymous or off camera. So yeah, you're not getting paid for it.
Yeah, but they don't want to tell it because they've been laughed at before. Husbands, wives. I know several people that have lost relationships because of belief system. My guy, he got fixed up with a girl, and her girlfriend and his best friend who set him up. They showed up at his cabin one day. All of a sudden, they're starting to hit it off, and let's see, that's a good one. Carter, appreciate you asking me these. Pygmy Poacher, I don't disregard anything unless I just know you're hoaxing me, But I mean, these people need to be heard. I consider myself a witness advocate. But back to the story. So him and this girl are standing there talking, and they're having a picnic lunch, and they're just talking, and all of a sudden there's these giant snaps. Twigs are snapping like right in front of them, and there's nothing there. Something's walking around, crunching the gravel, walking around and making calls and grunts, and they can't see anything, but this Sasquatch is walking in between them, invisible, obviously not happy that he is maybe going to have a date with this girl. And so they do this several more times, and they freak out. They pack their picnic lunch and they haul ass. They're gone. They never come back. And that's happened to him several times. He's lost relationships when they will do some really bizarre stuff, and right in front of somebody who's never experienced it or does not believe in it.
Oh, absolutely.
And then this stuff's happened. I'm out of here. And they're gone.
And the crazy part about that too is, like, you have a lot of times, I've heard a few researchers, like I know I've had Greg Yost on the show before, and I've had a few other people. I think Scott Carpenter's also talked about this, but the paranormal aspect of them, where some of them, like you were just talking about, being able to become completely invisible like that and come into people's homes. Greg said that he's had them to come into his home and be completely invisible. And he said sometimes they'll move stuff around, and then you have them in orb form also. There's one question somebody asked me, and I've seen this question before in some of the groups, and people were like, well, why would Bigfoot or Dogman need to hide behind trees at all if they can cloak? They were saying it makes no sense. And that's why I asked you earlier if you thought, well, maybe, I not thought about this today. I was like, well, maybe some of them can do it, some of them can't. I just wondered about that. But the cloaking, what do you think gives them that cloaking ability? Some people said it's the hair. Do you think it's got something to do with their translucent hair, whatever they're talking about with that?
Well, it could be. Some of the I haven't seen any DNA reports on Dogman or Mothman, but I have seen a few on Sasquatch, and I've seen a few hairs. I've got a couple here, and some of them are translucent. They're basically hollow shafts, hollow clear shafts. So they're not any different than an octopus or a chameleon. They can absorb the color of their surroundings and appear to disappear. You've seen any, you can look up any octopus on YouTube and watch it go from gray to brown, or to disguise itself like a coral reef. And if you look, other than knowing where it is because you saw it before it changed colors, you can't see it, but it's right there. So those two known creatures, and there's moths and spiders that can do the same things. So if they can do it, why do we say a 500 to 1,000 pound being can't do that? Just because it's big and not attractive? I mean, what's the delineation? What's the difference between one being able to do it and not another? And so, but having that one disappear in front of me, although it was on thermal, I've had several people tell me they just vanish in front of them. They walked through a wall, they walked through a tree and didn't come out the other side. You know, they were looking right at it, and it just kind of shimmered and went away. You know,
Yes, I'll
like a
bring his
predator.
question back up in a second, but it kind of just makes me think about the ability to do that. It's kind of I'm gonna take it back ancient, and I want to hear your theories on that in a few minutes because I've got some
Sure.
questions on that, and I want to hear the quantum and metaphysical aspect of it. But I want to take Mr. D Knuckles' question real quick, and then I want to bring it to some other aspects. But Mr. D Knuckles said, or there are flesh and blood ones that don't cloak, and other things that look like Dogman Bigfoot that can do all types of freaky stuff. Now, based on his comment, what I want to know is I don't know. We were talking about some things like that are in the woods that are demonic. I've heard people say that there's things in the wood like skinwalkers and different stuff like that that can mimic and take on the form of a dogman or Bigfoot. Do you agree with that? And do you think that that is something that happens?
Yeah, I've taken a couple of reports just in the last year after a paranormal conference I was at for 3 days here in Independence, Missouri. So I think there are beings that can do that. And I've taken some reports from what I assume are very clearly intelligent, rational people, and they're telling me with a straight face this incredible story. And so I believe that Sasquatch is probably the number one master of all of this coming and going at will, with changing your vibrational frequency. You know, and if you know, and Ron Moorhead and I talked about this for a while. He did commentary on my first book. Ron Moorhead
Yes.
did my first book with me, and so if you can meditate and get to a vibrational frequency where you can meld with your surroundings, you can
Mm-hmm.
disappear and go to another dimension. You can go to another plane. You know, and so science says that's possible. They just don't have it in a working model yet. But they say theoretically that's possible. And so they say we can prove that it's possible with quantum math.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a fan of science because they are, they're raining on our Sasquatch parade big time. I think they know a whole lot more than they're letting on. But if they can do that and do it at will, and they can, why do we say they can't? Because science proves that it's possible, and the only way to disprove a quantum mathematical theory is with more math and quantum physics. You can't just say that's not possible. They've proven it with math, and math is their golden gun in
Absolutely.
science. And so the only way to disprove it intelligently is to show your theory using quantum math and physics to disprove it. And so far, nobody has. Because even science, they've put their foot in their mouth and said, well, it's possible. So, okay, now we got you. Now you're halfway on our side.
Absolutely. And I'll let you go ahead and take this question real quick. I think it's more of a comment, but I have a question in just a second for you on that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Janice Carter confirmed that all the clans allow it and some don't. With training, they can all do it. That I'm not aware of. Now, Janice had that 50 years with Sasquatch, and she didn't mention a lot of the paranormal aspects until well after it was, the book had come out. And she's come in with all these theories afterwards. So they didn't have, unless she told us and I just missed it, she didn't have a lot of examples in that book, but she goes into great detail now about the things they can do, and it may be that she was just
yeah,
embarrassed and didn't want to say it because it sounded so outrageous when
I
her
would love
book.
to talk to her. I'd love to. Have you talked to
Yeah,
her ever? Have you
we
talked to her?
we chatted one time because I was going to do a part of her book in my book, and we just never got back together. And she was in the middle of, I think she was moving at the time, so we never got into it. But she does a lot of these shows. But I'd believe her because she lived that for 40, 50 years too, just like my guy up in Canada. You know, and with her and her grandpa and everything. So. If she says that there are clans that allow it and don't, I'm not privy to that information. But it could be. Maybe you have to earn a merit badge, so to speak, just like Boy Scouts. You have to attain a certain level of skill at doing it and do it for good and not for evil before you can use that power. That would be a criteria I would impose on like my juvenile kids.
Yes.
You kids aren't disappearing and reappearing in front of a McDonald's until you're old enough to understand your powers. Because I don't want you freaking out the people there at McDonald's and Mickey D's.
Well, do you think that if they are, because like I said, I have that, Nephilim theory, but then some people just may want to call them interdimensional or whatever. I mean, but it's, if they're both, which I think they're both at the same time, some people think, well, they can't be Nephilim because, if they're following angel DNA, then angels can't be killed. Angels don't eat. Angels don't need to do this. And even discrediting the Bible, there are, different books in ancient texts or whatever that talk about like the gods or, aliens, whatever they called them, like Anunnaki, the people that came from the sky that did come down and eat human food and come down in human form and were able to shapeshift at different times. So I just have different theories on that. But I'm wondering though, can they be killed if they are, if they're in that spiritual form? I think I've heard Greg Yost talk about it, and I'm not really sure what my thoughts are on this, but if they're in that form, or can they be killed at all since they're partially supernatural?
There are reports, incredible reports, although it's just verbal. There's no pictures or even if you had documents, they could be forged of kills of Sasquatch. I think if you're ruled by the scientific laws or the natural laws of science here on Earth, you probably have to live, eat, sleep, and die by those rules, unless you get caught before you can get away. I think it may take a while to charge up and vanish or disappear or get into a certain zone mentally where you change your vibrational frequency and you go off one way or the other. So it may be that, if they can die, I think killed. It just makes sense. It's probably incredibly difficult to kill one because the weapons we carry with us in the woods are usually not nearly big enough, according to many people.
Absolutely.
Your little 38 or a 45 or something like that's not going to kill a 1,000-pound creature. You
no,
they're going to just tick it off. But there are some credible stories, lumber companies and paper companies sending crews out to get rid of a few that are standing in the way of progress as we try to deforest their homeland. So it stands to reason if they are operating on our planetary plane that they will probably be subject to the same laws of survival that we are, unless they have time to change their vibrational frequency and get out of that physical mode and get into a semi-physical or paranormal mode or a metaphysical mode in a spiritual form. So the bullets will just pass right through whatever weapons you choose to try. Just theory, but several people share that theory. It's just, it's so, and here's one thing that I don't want to interrupt you. You were going to say something?
No, you said that. You keep talking. I'm gonna let them know something in the chat real quick that I'm gonna come back to their question in just a second.
Here's one reason why you, Bettina, me, Carter, and everybody, from the day you exit the birth canal till the time you're 18 to 20, we are told how the world is. We are told what exists. We are told what doesn't exist. So when you see or experience Sasquatch people, Dogman, Mothman, Pale Whites, Skinwalkers, whatever, your first gut reactions, well, that can't be. I learned in school, that can't be. My preacher told me, there's no Sasquatch, there's no UFOs, wait a minute, the government was lying. There is UFOs. Oh, okay. So scratch that off the they don't exist list because they've been lying to us and they've known for 50, 80, 100 years. you know. So we've been told how things are. So only if you have an open mind or you start questioning, do you start to like, let me think about that. That's I know what I saw. I mean, I saw it. I'm not crazy. I'm not doing drugs. I'm not drunk, but I saw it. So you have to start re-educating yourself. So, but we're all taught how the world is by the schools who the curriculum is chosen by the state and national governments. These are the books you use to educate our kids. This is the math. This is history. This is science. This
Right.
is botany. This is oceanography. This is aviary. It's everything. So we're told this stuff doesn't exist. So when you see it, you just discount it, try to explain it away, and go about your daily business.
I want to take Angel Martin's comment. Angel, thank you for leaving a comment. And I just want anybody who's in the comments to know everybody's opinions are free. My theories are just my theories. There's nobody's an expert in it. We don't have it down packed. So there's different aspects. So feel free to come and share your opinions, ask questions. Angel wanted to say, with all due respect, sometimes these theories about Sasquatch sound like fan fiction, like we have no reason to believe they only use their powers for good.
Well, that could be true. I mean, it depends on your perception, and your perception is your reality. So and that's actually a really good question. And here's some rhetoric for it: is that if you see a Sasquatch, a creature that doesn't exist, in the middle of the woods, daylight sighting, you see it and you go, "Oh my God!" and you run for cover. I was scared to death. It was going to kill me. It was running after me. Well, you don't know if it was running after you. You don't know if it's going to kill you. You were just scared. So it suddenly takes on an evil connotation just by the fact that you're scared of something you don't understand, And I can tell you the first time I saw a copperhead coiled and about ready to strike my little skinny butt when I was about 12 years old, I was that snake was evil. I was scared and I didn't want anything to do with it. I ended up studying herpetology in college. That's how quick it turned around for me. I went, oh, they're just another, one of God's creatures. So, but I understand her point of view, and it could be true for a lot of people, because if you're scared and run and believe nothing but bad about the thing that you just saw, well, that's going to be your opinion.
I'll scroll back up.
There's nothing wrong.
I was going to speak on that too. What I wanted to say about that, some people's opinion, because I'm a person, my dogman encounter, I've heard plenty of dogman encounters that are terrifying. They're vicious. They, attacked and killed people. The ones that they're and y'all just have to understand, there are some that are just, whether you're looking at them as a supernatural being or, for me, or flesh and blood creature, you have to, if it's even a flesh and blood creature, if you look at it from that standpoint, you wouldn't turn your back on a lion or a dog that you don't know. You still have to treat them with a certain level of respect. But some people's experience is not the next person's experience. Where my dogman encounters, they never approach me aggressively. So I can say, well, some of them are not aggressive, or maybe it just didn't feel like that I was a threat, or maybe it knew who I was because I lived on that property for several years. But for the person who's had them coming and killing their livestock, or the ones who've had them tapping on the windows or trying to lure people out, or pacing people in the woods, that's the terrifying experience. So that's where that other aspect, y'all, that comes from too, when it comes to them. So nobody's painting them overall, there's a lot of division too, in the cryptid community. It didn't have to be, because you have to look at it from all sides. Look at it the same way you would like any other animal or creature. If you have evil spirits and you have angels, I mean, whatever you want to call it, and then you're going to have dangerous animals, and so it just depends on that creature, that situation, whatever's going on. Sometimes it may be as simple as you're out there and they're trying to protect their young, so that person gets bluff charged or run out of the woods. But I think that there's a lot of good ones. I think that they, just like any other animal, are going to do what they can to try to get you away from their young or their home.
Yeah,
there's a lot of different situations.
Yeah, well, and there's bad apples in the whole bunch, just like humans. In birds, lions, tigers, there's going to be those that are bent towards doing bad things, And maybe they're afraid of humans, and the only way they can get rid of us is to chase us. You know, whether they
Yes.
know anything about us or not. Maybe they saw a human shooting at one of their kind, or they see a recreational hunter kill a deer and cut off its head for the horns and leave the body there. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons why an animal may choose, an intelligent animal on the level that we're talking would choose to treat
Yeah.
you as a bad person.
All right. Call the Crow said one copped a feel on my wife the other day, broad daylight, while she was watering the garden, completely invisible. She swears to it. Yeah. I mean, I just know. I mean, like I said, it's kind of hard to like try to figure out. I have no idea. Like for me, and Call the Crow, are you talking about like a Bigfoot, or are you talking about Dog Man? He's got his own group as well. I believe him and his wife do. I
Yeah, I
think
think
they
we're
have
friends
their
on
own group.
Facebook. Well, I've got a witness who just contacted me. Let's see, what is this now? August. It would have been the first of this year, and he and his wife were both standing outside on their deck. He was at one end and she was at the other, and they heard something underneath the deck. And they live on 5 acres, so they were just kind of enjoying the scenery. But they hear
Mm-hmm.
something under the deck, and they hear something walking, and they just stand there, and you can tell it's walking out toward the backyard, and they see uh, a clear, shimmering, just like the predator. It was. Are you familiar with squatching with Gabby?
I hadn't heard of squatching with Gabby, but I do know what you're talking about as far as that predator thing that you
Yeah,
just
but she's
talked
got
about.
a video of a humanoid shape that is clear. It's just like the movie. It
I
is.
know what you're talking about. And you see the outline of it. You can still see its form. I've seen that before.
Yeah, it's called Squatching with Gabby. She's got a thing on YouTube. She's actually a very good researcher. Yeah, that's something you ought to check
I'm,
out. But
I will
they
check that
saw
out.
this thing, and it was just walking nonchalantly through the backyard, and it was clear. It was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, broad daylight, and they could see this shimmering humanoid shape. You know, the guy was talking about cop to feel on his wife, but they can walk right up to you if you're translucent, transparent. You can walk right up to somebody they never even know you're there, and they can do
Oh,
whatever they want.
absolutely.
You know what I mean?
It's
So
very interesting. Yeah,
yeah,
I've
and
seen
you
that
just
a lot.
it's 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 people's reality. If they're not yanking you, they're very sincere and heartfelt about everything. Uh, when they say they see or feel or experience something, that's their reality, and that's going to be their belief system until you show them otherwise or they learn otherwise. So you just can't discount some of this because when I was first doing reports with BFRO, if it had anything to do with paranormal or any kind of quantum, they would take it out of the reports. They sanitize the reports now anyway. They falsify their data.
I heard
So
about that. You're not with them anymore?
I'm still a member, and any day now, every day I talk about the things they do. They could just pull the plug on me, but I don't care. The only reason well, because I don't want to. I no longer do reports for BFRO because I do not want to be a part of the falsification of data. And they're the largest database in the world, and it's corrupted. They falsify data. They take stuff out that alludes to intelligence or communication other than knocking and stuff like that. I mean, they just sanitize everything.
And then what was the purpose for them doing that? Why were they doing that?
Well, they still are. I mean, it's ongoing. Uh, they want to keep it to be a dumb ape. They want to protect their little show, Finding Bigfoot,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why you never see one. Stay tuned next week. We'll be right back. We'll find one next week. We almost got one. And next week, it's the same thing. All they want to do is sell tampons and beer and drugs to old people. And you have to have a certain audience base uh, to pay for the advertising. So they don't want to get into all that paranormal and quantum metaphysical stuff. They just, and the thing, I've had some of my reports sanitized, and they took stuff out and still published the report, but taking the intelligent quotients out of it. What the hell? Who does that? You know, it's insulting. It's insulting to the witnesses, really, you know, and to me as a researcher, you know, but I have copies. I made copies of every report I took. You know, I don't know how, if you know how BFRO works, but you go into the database and you can see a report. Oh, I like that. I'll assign it to myself. Then you call that witness, you set up a time to talk, and you get all the data, because very often the report has a lot of holes in it. You know, they're just typing it out and just want to get it out as quick as possible so they can remember it. But then you start asking questions. So whenever I took a report, I made a copy of it. Then I called the witness or emailed them and said, hey, let's get together and talk. And so I talk, then I get the report all done. So that I finalize the report, and then I make a copy of that one after I've talked to the witness. And then I make a copy, and then I send it in to get it published. So I've got both copies, the one that came in before and the one after, the one I submitted for publication. And so a witness called me about a year and a half ago in Oklahoma. And he said, what did you do to my report? I said, what are you talking about? And I looked it up, and I'll be damned. They had taken the most key piece of information out of the report and then still published it, you know? And then I started doing research for my books, because I put some of my more favorite reports in these books. And I started finding several of my reports had information taken out and published. I mean, why are you going to publish a report if it's false? If you've taken, go ahead.
Do you think that there's some kind of propaganda or reason, or like there's money into it for the reason why they're not allowed to talk about this, or it's what is that though? Is it trying to cover up something? What is the cover up about?
You know, and I cannot, you know, Matt won't even talk to me about it, you know, because he's not a brave person. You know, he's pretty brave behind the camera, but he won't talk. And so I think they want to preserve the neutral palette for the TV show, to keep the advertisers happy. You know, they know darn good and well what's going on. You know, they know exactly, you know, just like the government and the paper, they know what's going on. I think they're just trying to protect the ego, and, you know, these are just dumb ape, we're sticking to it type thing. But, you know, it's insulting. And this is another reason why people don't want to come forward, because you tell somebody your story, and by sanitizing it and taking out the key data, that's the same thing as making fun of it.
It is.
I'm gonna take all this other stuff out of here, and it just sounds like another road crossing. You know, 50% of all Sasquatch sightings are road crossings. So you take out those 50%. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. There's some really great data there. You know, but I Sasquatch crossed the road while I was driving down the highway. Thousands of those. But you take the other stuff that people are saying, but when you start altering their data, they're going to shut up, and they're going to tell friends of theirs who may have had an event, well, don't call BFRO, don't call John Smith, don't call so-and-so, or this website or this podcast group or this Facebook group, don't call them, because they're going to make fun of you and laugh at you. So the people, they hide, you know, they just go underground and just won't talk about it.
I agree with that, because it's kind of scary too, because you don't want to put your encounter out there, and then when you get in, like what you were just saying, like in groups and on shows, and sometimes being attacked in comments and stuff like that, it gets discouraging to people. And at that point, it's like, well, if it's this bad, like just amongst your friends and family, then you get in the community, and then there's other infighting, there's whole other different aspects and beliefs, then it kind of just makes you feel like the whole thing is crazy, and they know that. Call of the Crow said, do you think psychedelics open the same doors Sasquatch uses, like DMT? Psychedelics like DMT?
I've never done DMT. You know, I'm an old hippie from the 60s, so there's not much I haven't done, but I haven't done the new stuff, you know, because, you know, I don't need to. I'm kind of out there anyway, so I don't need to do many psychedelics.
That's
There
me
are
too.
moments, yeah. So, but I think meditation will get you to those portals quicker than in a better way than drugs, simply because there's no hallucination going on. If you're going to go to a place where there's vibrational frequency meditation, other skill sets that we just haven't covered, infrasound and things like that, you if it was me, I wouldn't want to be encumbered with seeing things that aren't really there because I'm tripping. I'd want to experience what's really there when I got wherever it is I'm going. So,
Yes.
trust me, I was a drummer in the rock and roll days, 60s, 70s, 80s. I did everything you can imagine, and, uh, I have no qualms about admitting that. I enjoyed it all, but when you're trying to do some research and stuff like that, I tend to stay pretty straight laced, because you want to experience for real what you are experiencing or seeing, and if there's anything, oh wow, I was just so stoned, I think that's what I saw. I don't want to be saying that. I want to go, I was clear as a bell, and I know exactly, like when I saw that Sasquatch disappear, I wasn't stoned drinking, I was leading an expedition, people 11 o'clock at night in the middle of the woods in Mark Twain National Forest here, people's safety under my control, and I didn't want to be like, wow, yeah, man, oh, come on over here. I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that, because people need to go on an expedition and they expect to be treated with respect and safety, and don't here, so. But I get what he's saying, but I think you can may get the same effect, and if you want to get really, really into the Quantum Bigfoot, Ron Moorhead's book. God, he nails so many things on the head.
What's the name of it?
Quantum Bigfoot. Hang on, I'll get it.
Yeah, because I'm going to write that down. The Quantum Bigfoot. Y'all write that down if y'all want to check. I'm going to try to get Ron Moorhead on the show. Quantum Bigfoot, y'all, by Ron Moorhead.
That is a very, very good book. And it gets into all kinds of things, like, the decalcification of the pineal gland. You know what the pineal gland is? This is the thing that makes us think and meditate. And we used to be able to, I believe firmly that we used to have all the skill sets that the ETs have and that we claim the Sasquatch have. And we progressed all of those out of us with computers and rockets and cars. We don't have to hunt for our food. We go to a grocery store. We look at our phone, and we've got the entire world in our palm. We don't
Absolutely.
have to. And so we don't need to meditate. We don't need to, go to another plane. We don't need to do any of that because we got machines that do it for us. And so I think that's the one, fluoride. That's one thing Ron talks about is fluoride calcifies the pineal gland. So fluoride is in our water, toothpaste. We are heavily drugged with fluoride because it keeps you docile and your thought process on an even keel with rare variance, because that's what, it's for your teeth, but baloney, it's a form of control. But it costs you $5 to $10 grand to get a decalcification system in your house to get rid of all the water, and that's very costly for those that can really afford it. And there's recipes, you can boil your water, but even though there's so many things you can do, but it doesn't do it all. So it's the diet, but he covers that decalcification of the pineal gland.
I definitely want to check into that.
Bettina, you would like this book. You would like devour.
I'm gonna definitely get into it because there's so many different aspects of it. I'd like to know. I mean, but I wanted to just ask, like, Crow, Call of the Crow, if you're still out there in the comments, let me know. If you're still in the comments, I have a question. You had asked about the DMT and psychedelic drugs. If you're still out there, what are your thoughts on that? Do you believe that that works? And on that same comment he made, I have a question because you had like different Native American tribes that what was it? They did ayahuasca and peyote and stuff like that, and they say that sometimes that they would do this, or the medicine men would do this to bring them in closer. I guess it would bring them into that spiritual interdimensional realm with the
Mhm.
spirit world or the ancestor spirits and I guess forest spirits. So, and I've heard different stories from people that this actually happens. There are some different research groups that actually do go out there with the hopes of conjuring them up or calling them up or like bringing them in by doing stuff like that. And I've heard that what is it? Dog men are even attracted to tobacco. So, do you have any further thoughts on that
Well,
at all?
the ayahuasca is something. It's not really allowed here, but I know a lot of people, and you have to be really careful. But they go down to Central and South America, or basically Brazil, where this plant grows, and people have incredible spiritual awakenings if it's properly administered in you with the right people. Now, a lot of people that went down to Central and South America were robbed because you have to go into the jungle where the shamans and the medicine
Yes.
live, and they were taken advantage of. Because they were robbed at gunpoint and stuff like that. I don't know if you follow football much, but the quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, uh, name escapes me. He just said 2 or 3 days ago he credits ayahuasca for giving him a new lease on life and rejuvenating his career.
Oh
He
wow.
underwent an ayahuasca therapy, and it's not an illegal substance as far as the NFL is concerned. But anyway, he's kind of a hippie and kind of difficult person to get to know, but he
Mhm.
went into some good detail on that. So if it's properly done, you're with the right people. They're not just trying to get your money. If you're trying to get some actual spiritual content out of your experience to better your life, it can be a very rewarding experience. So I understand, you know. That's all I really know about it, you know. Uh, but
I'm
I'm not
trying to
one to
see.
shy away from
No,
properly administered medicines if it gets you somewhere.
people are just don't like to bring up that spiritual aspect, and I've heard on some other cryptid shows that those are also spiritual or supernatural aspects of it are kind of swept under the rug, and it's just I think somewhat to a certain extent I think that becomes almost for people too unbelievable if they accept the spiritual supernatural aspect of it, and that's just my thoughts on it.
No, it
Anybody
is.
else out there?
Yeah,
Go
people
ahead,
just
Mark.
go, you know, you're asking me to believe in Bigfoot, but now you want me to believe that it's a spiritual, supernatural creature that can come and go from dimensions, and maybe it comes and goes on spacecraft. And I mean,
Yes.
what's wrong with all you people? I can't buy into all that. Well, right now, I think the world is in a period of incredible knowledge and reawakening. I think all these beings
Mm-hmm.
they come to visit Earth uh, on a daily basis, but come and go as they want. Mothman, Dogman, great, the white people. I mean, all
Yes.
the degree of the beings can come and go. They may go to these other dimensions because that's their safe haven, and they'll come here because I think they
Absolutely.
are tasked. Even the Dogman and Mothman are probably tasked with keeping us from destroying our planet and destroying nature and
Mm-hmm.
polluting the earth. And of course, we're right in the middle of a really big problem with, global warming and the melting of the ice caps and all that stuff. So we are at a crossroads, and all of a sudden, as we are at this crossroad of defiling the earth, we are suddenly seeing and experiencing all these beings. Now, why is
Absolutely.
that? You'll hear a Sasquatch report or Mothman, and Mothman in the Midwest here. Oh my God, Chicago, Illinois. Oh my goodness, they're all over the place. So, but it's really been like a frenzy of all these things. And so maybe we're coming to a crossroads. We're going to have to fish or cut bait with the way we take care of our planet, the way we treat each other as humans, you know.
Absolutely.
And that is a theory that is why they're here in the first place, to keep us from doing bad things to ourselves, our fellow humans, and to the planet. They got to live here too,
Yeah,
you
I
know.
agree.
So, Russ Dizzard.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to take that down. I
Okay.
thought I'd cut you off. Let me put it back up
The
there.
drugs are one of the most popular ways to open them up to the demon possession. Well, that's possible. You know, uh, I
I've
had a
heard
bad
about
trip
that.
or two when I was in my teens and 20s. I had a couple of bad trips, and
Really?
yeah, I had a couple of rough trips. They weren't what I thought they were going to be. They turned out to be, and it turned out there was somebody doing bad things in my
And
house that I wasn't aware of.
but you
Doing
know,
worshiping the devil, worshiping. They had a pentagram uh, that they unfolded. They were staying in one of my rooms, and so they
mm-hmm.
had a rug that they unfolded and had the pentagram, and they had candles on all the corners and rocks and things all over it. And they were casting spells. And my
That's
cat was walking down the hall. My cat jumped 3 or 4 feet in the air, ran up the wall, ran up across the ceiling, and back down on the floor, was hissing and freaking out.
that is terrifying.
Yeah, it was bar, and I was tripping at the time. I was in the bathroom, and I heard this, and I was watching it, and I went over there and opened the door because I heard something going on. He was chanting or something, and there he was on the ground
You know,
with
you have
his
to
cane.
be careful with that stuff. Well, I've heard people often say there's things that are worse out. There's worse things in the woods than Dogman and Bigfoot. Now I know you've been mostly a Bigfoot researcher. Have you gotten encounters of this thing that they call the rake or a crawler? Have you heard people that report those at all at any times? As far as
No, I've got a research buddy here, Brian Woods here in Missouri, and he got a photo of what looks like a leprechaun, but it's a short, skinny thing with really big ears that kind of wrap around the back, and it's
right?
like a little patch of hair up here. And it was taken by a guy about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, who was on his way to work in southeast Missouri. And it's one of those photos you can't really make out because it was on a phone at night, and I'll take a picture while I'm driving 40 miles an hour, you know. But it's
Yes.
bizarre. I have not experienced a rake or seen a rake. You were mentioning skinwalkers. Now,
Yes.
at the last paranormal conference I did here in Missouri, I had a woman came up to me, and she just I took 2 reports. She came up to me, and then another person emailed me of a Sasquatch wearing a clown outfit.
A what?
Another one had a clown outfit.
Oh,
And this was on a Native American property in Anadarko, Oklahoma. And a little old lady went outside to see what all the commotion was one night. She thought her dogs were, they're getting in a dust up or a fight. And she
mm-hmm.
walked out to her back porch. This is Native American woman, so this fits into the Skinwalker thing. And she identified it as a Sasquatch, but it was wearing a clown outfit.
That's weird.
Yeah. And it was off the left side of her porch. They stared at each other for a second and just turned around and walked away. I had another report of a woman who was pulling up to a stoplight.
Mm-hmm.
And this is in Kansas City, Kansas, over by the Speedway. We have a big racetrack here. And so, and she was pulling up. The car next to her in the left lane, there was this person who was just going crazy. And she thought, well, somebody, headbanger grooving to music or something. But he was screaming and crying, and she couldn't figure out what the heck. So she pulled up and she put on her brakes, and then she looks to where he's looking, which is on the left, and she sees a Sasquatch on all fours wearing a white shirt and a black sports jacket and black slacks.
Yeah. Oh wow.
And so, okay, but she's telling me this with all sincerity, and she sees this thing, and she's never seen one before. But she did describe it walking on all fours, not on its hands and knees, but hands and feet. If you've ever seen a Sasquatch running on all fours, they don't run on their knees; they run on their hands and feet, and their butt's in the air, and the back is really heavily arched. So it's like this, and they're walking. I mean, it's a bizarre way they walk. But she described perfectly a Sasquatch how they walk on all fours. So when she pulled up to the intersection, this guy had
Yes.
stopped, and he was like, he was holding onto his wheel. He was just like, just like trying to get his crap together. And then the light
Hmm.
turns, and so this creature is not made it across the street. It's right in front of his car, and he starts freaking out all over again. She floors it and gets it out of there because she said, "I'm not hanging around for this. I don't know what's going on." She floors it. She looks in the rearview mirror, and he's still there, freaking out. She could see in her rearview mirror that he's still freaking out. And that creature's gone. But Skinwalker, shapeshifter, that's such a bizarre picture to describe to somebody with a straight face. But she
Yes.
was adamant that that's what she saw, and she saw this guy next to her, and he couldn't get. He was trying to fumble get out of his car. He couldn't work the locks. He was so panic stricken. He just couldn't get out of his car. And so, hey Vince, what's going on?
Vincent in the house.
You know
All
Vince?
right. Yeah, he's one of my admin. He's on my team. He's been with me for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
Pygmy Poacher said, Carter, many people who research and build your depth of knowledge have the Hitchhiker Effect where they get black cloak things in their house and other paranormal activity. Have you had that?
Oh God, I started a list. This all the activity in my house started. Yes, I do have this going on. Up until about 2 weeks ago, we have stuff routinely going on. If you have time, do you take a break or anything? Do you have?
You know what? You want to take a break?
Well, I'm going to start into kind of a lengthy explanation of Vince's thing, but it's a great.
You know what? If I'm gonna take, can I take? I'm gonna take a break. I'm gonna take a 2 or 3 minute break. But if you want to stay on and keep talking to them, can you? Will you still be able to read the comments from where you are? If not, I'll just wait.
Yeah, I can read it, but let me take a break and go use the boys' room.
Okay.
Refresh my drink. You take your break. So would that be okay for everybody if we just take about 2 minutes?
Yeah. Yep. Y'all stand by. We'll be right back. Don't y'all leave.
All
And
right.
and y'all get y'all's questions ready down there for Mr. Carter Buschardt. Carter, you go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and go too. I'm just letting them know to get your questions ready.
All right. All right. Cool.
And y'all put y'all's questions in all caps so we can so they'll stand up. Don't leave y'all. I'm just gonna go to the bathroom real quick too. And if Carter gets back before I do, he's able to look at the comments too. Just let him know that he can go ahead and take comments or questions from y'all. And Cryptidville, I missed your question on the screen before, but let me just go take a break. I'll be right back. Carter, you can go ahead on with your story. I'm back now. I'm just getting ready to cut my camera on, but you remember where you had left off? You were getting ready to tell us a story.
Yeah.
Something before you left out, so you can go right.
I'll wait until I see your beautiful face, so I know
I'm back.
You're picking up my vibe, baby.
I'm picking up the vibe, y'all.
Okay.
I missed a bunch of y'all's questions. I'll get those in a sec.
So, right here, my second book, Sasquatch: Evidence of an Enigma. You see this log, and on the log are 6 rocks. See 5 on the one side and 1 at the very end.
I see that.
Yeah, keep that in mind, everybody. So, I led an expedition for BFRO in 2019 in Illinois. Now, it was on the books. It was going to be canceled because the person who was going to do it couldn't do it. So a bunch of people canceled, but there was a bunch of people that still wanted to go. So BFRO just put out an all points bulletin message. Hey, does anybody want to do this expedition? Because these people still want to go. So long story short, I volunteered, and there was only 4 people left, but they had already spent their money. They'd made plans. They wanted to go. And so I said, I'll do it. Because I'd never been to that part of Illinois where I took them. So anyway, I had 4 people, myself, and my Sasquatch partner in Illinois, Harold Benny. So I took them out. It was a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We took them out and had some very good activity. Yes, I am. I'm on the Phantoms and Monsters 40 and research team. Thanks for the plug, Vince. So I took this group out, and we had some really cool stuff going on. We got a lot of footprints. We saw some structures. We had some events Saturday night. And so it was Friday night. We went back out Saturday, and nothing happened. But we had some stuff going on. So we enjoyed the time we had there. And so now Harold, he couldn't go with it. He was there, but he couldn't because of injuries due to cancer, a stroke, some other surgeries. He could not navigate the heavy, rocky terrain going up and down. It's kind of a steep going down into this area. This was the Trail of Tears, by the way, in Illinois. You may or may not be familiar with the Trail of Tears. Anyway, so he couldn't go. So he stayed in the car in the parking lot because he just couldn't do, his legs just wouldn't do it. So that was a Friday night. The second night, Saturday, when we went out, when we had most of the activity, he stayed back at camp because he was just kind of recuperating from even going with us that Friday night. It just wore him out. He stayed back in camp. So we left, all went our separate ways, and Harold and I decided to get back together a year later in 2020. Now, COVID had already hit, and we went back in October of 2020. That was the 1 year to the day anniversary of when we did the expedition.
Right.
So, and that's when I had the 4 people. So we went back, and he again had to stay behind because he just couldn't make it. He got a little further down, but he had to stay there. And I went on down to the spot that we stopped at. There was this log that was across the ravine, and that was our stopping point. And we had seen some flashes of activity there. And so I went down there just to check it out. And so it still had this really great vibe. You know, it just you just knew you were in the presence. You knew you were in somebody's living room. That's the way I like to describe it. You knew you were in someone's house. They were there. I just knew they were there. You could feel it. And so, and this was on a Wednesday. And so I said, well, Harold, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna go back to my car and get a camera. I'm gonna leave it here. And I'm not really a big fan of camera traps, but if you don't leave one, you'll never get anything. And I'd have some incredible photos from trail cams, so they do work on occasion. So I went back to my car, got my camera, and I left it at this log. And I said, I'm going to come back tomorrow on the way out of town, because we only were staying for a day because it was COVID. And so we went back to camp. I went back the next morning to get my camera on the way back to Kansas City.
Right.
And Harold went on home. This was 2020. I went there to get my camera, and on that log was those 5 rocks and the one down here.
Right.
The 5 rocks, that one that's pointed like an arrow, that's the leader. That's me. The 4 rocks behind it were the 4 expedition goers. Gotta hear me out. The rock on the other end was Harold, who was there but couldn't be there. He couldn't make the trek down to where we were.
Wow.
So that, and I went to get my camera, and I was looking at this. Who could have done that? Because we left the day before. We left at 2:00, and it was October in the middle of COVID. There's nobody out, nobody. And so the only way humans could have come along and done this was to have come between like 2 and 5:30, because it gets pitch dark. It's fall in October.
Yes.
By 5 o'clock, 5:30. And so I blew that off as a possibility. So I was sitting there looking at this, and all of a sudden I just went, "Holy crap! That's me and the expedition people, and that's Harold. They're telling us they were there. They're communicating. There's 6 people. It's nothing other than what it was." I'm getting the chills now when I tell this story, because it just hit me, And so I stared at it for a while, and I just went, "Whoo! Wow, awesome!" And so I called my wife on the way home, and here's the weird part. At about 11 o'clock the night before, my wife in Kansas City, 300 miles away, speaking of orbs, watched an orb zipping through our bedroom, a blue orb.
Oh my God.
Now, she not only saw it, Mr. Denuckle, yes, I've heard them speak, and I'll get to that. Yes, I have heard them speak, both gibberish and so that I can understand it.
And English, okay.
She's watching this blue orb zip around the bedroom, and she also sees it in the mirror on our dresser. So she's not only seeing it live, but she's seeing it as a reflection. So it's not like somebody's driving by our house and it's a weird reflection of a light going by our house at night, coming through the window, that kind of stuff. So about the same time, I'm estimating, of course, it could have happened anytime.
Yes.
That those rocks were being left there. She's seeing an orb flitting around the bedroom in our house.
Wow.
I don't believe in coincidences. It was just freaking eerie. It was awesome. It was just like, yes.
No.
Go ahead.
What I was going to say about that, I remember Scott Carpenter and I think a few other guests that I've had on the show have mentioned the fact that a lot of people who've had, what is it, Bigfoot or Dogman sightings, cryptid sightings or encounters, have also had UFO sightings and or paranormal activity also happening in their homes. Do you think that there's a correlation between the two?
Yes.
What do you think
Point
that
blank, yes.
correlation? What do you think that correlation is?
Well, okay. If you take the orbs back to ghost hunting, and I'll get to Vincent's question in a minute, but
Okay.
you know, they materialize and dematerialize from the spirit world to materialize into our world. So they arrive in an orb and materialize into whatever it is they want us to see. They manifest themselves into, a ghost or a Sasquatch or
Wow.
a dog or something like that. And then if they disappear, people always say, well, the ghost, it just kind of went into this orb and just vanished. So I think that's their vehicle to get in and out of a dimension, one of many vehicles probably, but how they would travel from one dimension to another is, compressing that energy into an orb. Because, a lot of times after UFO sightings and Sasquatch sightings, I'm starting to hear, I have some habituation people that routinely see orbs after or before they've had a Sasquatch event. And they have them regularly because they live on their property. I mean, I'm talking about 20 or 30 years and then, generations of the same family been having interactions with Sasquatch on their property, you know. And
Yes.
I've sat there with them and had the interactions myself. I've sat there and traded whoops and calls to a Sasquatch in the woods.
You
Just
know,
hilarious.
oh yeah, well, there's also a lot of sightings. Reports of lights in the sky also
Yeah.
with Bigfoot and Dogman, and so yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The fact that they're able to come into appear and disappear into our dimension, and
Yeah.
some of the same thing has also been said about UFO sightings. I think was it J. Allen Hynek, and I can't remember the other guy, but they had, I don't know if it was that video that came out back in the day called the Omega Conspiracy, where they had
Well,
somewhat, but
Stanton Friedman and J.
yeah,
Allen Hynek, and actually
yes,
I wrote letters back and forth to Hynek before he died. They were actually published in Omni magazine, and for some reason I can't find that particular magazine. And I just watched something last night with J. Allen on it, and his son is now taking over his work since he passed away.
hmm
Very very intriguing stuff. But I think that is a vehicle for them to go in and out of our world. And if you just take Sasquatch and Dogman and Mothman out of the picture and just use the orbs for ghosts and spirits, that's how they manifest. A lot of
well,
times you will see people say, well, there was this orb just kind of flitting around the house, and all of a sudden there's a ghost walking by me. I mean, it's a mode of transportation, so to speak, for them. It's like they're on the bus line. Let's grab the
well,
orb and get over to Bettina's house. It's a party over there.
well, I've actually heard them talk about like, I hadn't heard this with Dogman, but I've heard people say that they've watched Bigfoot come out of an orb or turn into an orb. So it's very interesting when you look into it. So that's kind of more like a spiritual type creature, interdimensional. One of the questions Vincent had before Carter was, why do you think Bigfoot make those braided archways?
Well, I'm just now experiencing glyphs myself. Now they braid horsehair. They braid the manes on horses. I've got a couple of Sasquatch habituation witnesses that run boarding stables, and they have their tails and their manes are braided overnight while they're locked in a barn. So
Yep.
who does that? So I think when they braid these portals or the vines in live tree growth, I think that's sort of a portal. That's an invitation for you to walk through or by or experience it, because maybe they've charged it with some energy that you're supposed to absorb, as you experience it. I think that's why they do it. There's probably a more, what's the word, pedestrian meaning for
Yes.
woven stuff. But I take that myself to mean it's a portal or it's an invitation to experience us showing you glyphs and things we make with our hands to show you we're, we have intelligence, we're trying to communicate with you. So, what they mean by it, I don't know. I talk a lot with Brian Bland and Michael Harrelson on Pork and Bean Show. They've got some great concepts and a lot of really good things.
They do. I was on their show. They're very interesting guys.
Yeah.
Big,
Scott reports whenever he left items south of Sasquatch, one was reorganized into 3 and 1 separated elsewhere. Yeah. And that's, I've got several witnesses that are experiencing triangles, triangle glyphs, triangle craft that they are floating through space on as they are
yes.
seeing things. And this is a Sasquatch generated vision. I wish I had that out. Let me think. I don't have it out anymore. I had a drawing that my guy made. I don't have it. That he was shown a triangular craft with Earth, Moon, and Saturn.
Mm.
And he was shown this as he was going through the planetary system. And he and his wife, this is the guy that he and his wife saw that clear predator type thing. And he's seen some other things at night. So, the triangular thing and groups of 3 are a finite communication with these beings. I don't know all the ins and outs of what they mean, but the fact that you're seeing them and experiencing it means something, and they're getting your attention, but anyway, so after this rock event, things started happening at our house. Now, 2021, I went back to Trail of Tears with my partner here, Brian, and then Harold met me, and another buddy of ours who's also a researcher, Chris, met us, and we went back to this log. This time, Harold made it all the way. He had healed up enough, so he was very proud of himself. He still walks with a cane, but he's older. But he walked with a cane, but he got
Wow.
there. And when we got to this log, those 5 rocks were gone. The one rock that was at the other end was where the 5 rocks were.
Wow.
That represented Harold finally making it. And it was like a congratulations, you've made it. It was memorializing the fact that he finally was physically able to get there. Now, I know it was the same rock because when I found those rocks in the first place, I dusted all of them for fingerprints. I carry a DNA kit with me at all times. If I find some poop, blood, or a fingerprint, I'm all over it. I'm ready. So if you're a researcher, always carry a DNA kit with you.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. When you have the research, what do you do? Like when you go get it tested? Because I've heard Jody Cook and Nick Valente, when I had them on different times, they said whenever you have the DNA, don't send it off to like one of these government labs because they're not going to give you the real report on what it is. They said they take it.
You'll never see it again. You'll never see it. It'll disappear.
Mm-hmm.
We
what
lost
do you do?
it. I don't know what happened. Well, with fingerprints, I don't do it. Well, I don't know if you can see. You see that handprint on the very far right? That handprint on the wall?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. That thing is...
Yeah, I see that.
It's 13 inches from the base of your palm to the tip of the middle finger. And we took that here. So that's just a matter of dusting a fingerprint. If you practice, anybody can take a print off of a glass. My partner found this print in the mud, and we had it sent off to Cliff Barrackman, Barrackman, however you want to say it.
I've heard of him, yeah.
Finding Bigfoot. He's the nerdy, sciencey guy with the gray hair, a little weird. He said, the dermal ridges are all over the palm, a couple of fingers. That is a bona fide Sasquatch handprint.
Oh,
Now, I
wow.
had a connection at a local crime lab here, and I took those prints, put them on fingerprint cards, took them to this crime lab. It came back as unknown, but it doesn't have a criminal record. We know that for sure. Because when you take these cards in, into a crime lab, you have to access the criminal database. You can't just
Really?
come in and look at them. If you take a fingerprint on a card, an official card, into a crime lab, you have to run it because they don't want you doing favors for friends and stuff. So they ran that. Anyway,
Wow.
so
I
but
no, I get what you're saying.
it's a legit print. So anyway, uh, Harold, that rock signified him making it. And I'm planning on going back for the fourth time this year, 2022. So it'll be 19, 20, 21, 22. See if anything's going on. But this conversation started about having weirdness going on in our house. All kinds of weird stuff. You just, and this might get into poltergeist type activity. I attribute it to Sasquatch because those are the beings that I'm communicating with.
Yes.
Now, when I go to sleep at night, we often meditate, just because I don't sleep well, so I like to meditate. And about a half a dozen times since 2019, I have closed my eyes and I'm just waiting to go to sleep. I'm listening to the speech and the tapes, and all of a sudden I'll start seeing I'm going through this little valley. It's like I'm on a conveyor belt. I'm moving at a constant thing, but everything is going by me quicker than I'm actually moving. But I'm seeing ravines, little cliffs, Sasquatch walking around, little juvenile Sasquatch chasing bugs, just a day in the life.
Really? It's just interesting when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah, and so a couple of times I said, "Where is this? This doesn't look like here in Missouri." And I'll get, "This is our home." Just
Wow.
clear as a bell. I said, and I didn't say it out loud, but I'm thinking, yeah, but where is that? Home. That was it. They just said, "This is our home." And
That's
I'm
very
going,
interesting.
God, that is so awesome. Epic. So this past December, we had our first snow here in Missouri.
Uh-huh.
And it was just a dusting. And I told this on the other program the other night on Big Tex,
Mm-hmm.
Tex Rods. Uh, and I said, well, I don't think this is Missouri, because I was seeing this vision again. So I was looking at it, I was going, well, I don't think that's Missouri because we just had snow yesterday and there's no snow. So it must not be Missouri. I was just thinking in my head. The next night, I get the same vision. There's snow on the ground.
Wow.
It's a dusting of snow. And you can feel here in Missouri, the grass was still kind of green. It doesn't die
Yes.
off quite as quick as, in truly frigid climates like up north. Where are you at? I don't know.
Alabama?
Alabama? Okay.
It's
So
hot here. I mean, when our
it still
winters are
stays
cold
green
here,
in the winter. Your grass is still kind of, it
yeah,
doesn't,
some are green, grayish, kind of
yeah.
that yellowish brown.
Yeah, but it's not totally brown. Here in Missouri, it's not because we're a little further south. Anyway, they're listening to me. And they were just, because I didn't say any of it out loud. I was just thinking to myself, what? It's not Missouri. And, we just had a little dusting. So that must not be it. So maybe it's Illinois. But the next night, I see that same thing. And it's just, what do you do with that? Unless you just think I'm a crazy person. And maybe I am. I don't know. But, what do you do when that happens? I mean, they're communicating with me. And we have had so many things going on here. 2 weeks ago, something tapped me on the head while I'm watching TV with my wife.
Yes.
3 or 4 days after that, our TV turns off. Everything else is white, all the electricity, all the lights are on, everything's fine. And we turn the TV back on. It's like, how'd that happen? About 3 or 4 months ago, we have this little cheesy lamp. It's kind of a four-sided triangle. It's a sign from like Flamingo in Las Vegas.
Yes.
Cheesy little plastic sign. It's a light that sits on our bar. It's just by the bar. It's it's just cool. It's just a little Vegas thing, but it's kind of neat. It's kind of kitschy, And so I'm sitting there in the living room watching TV, and all of a sudden, kabam! I hear this racket in the bar room. I'm going, God dang it! I just knew one of the cats was up there getting on top of the bar and knocking. I was getting ticked off. Well, then I look, and the one cat who's really old, he's sitting next to me, so it wasn't him. And the cat I thought it was on the floor in our living room with me. And my wife was in the bed getting ready for bed. And so I went into the bar, and that lamp was thrown about 3 to 4 feet because it bounced off the window that overlooks our backyard. So it didn't just fall off. It was tossed because I could hear the batteries and the plastic hitting the glass and then crash into the ground. So that kind of reaches maybe poltergeist activity.
Absolutely. It's crazy though when it comes to these things. I mean, it's a lot of it, and I've seen it. I mean, I've seen them go invisible, and I think that's what, when you put it down to poltergeist and ghost activity, paranormal, I think it even kind of is somewhat of a correlation there between like the cryptid pictures that show up blurry too. You get the same thing with paranormal pictures, ghosts, or like people having their batteries to die after they fully charged them, or recording and there's nothing on camera. You get that same stuff with the Blob Squad photos. So what we're going to do, y'all, we're going to get ready to shut down. We've been going for an hour and 37 minutes, and I've got to get off of here because I've got to start getting ready for this cryptid conference, leaving tomorrow for that.
I'm going to show you one more picture.
Okay.
And then I'll leave you alone. But just so you know that all trail cams do not come up empty.
Did you show that last night? That is so creepy. And this was this on one of your eyewitnesses' property that you interviewed?
Yes.
Wow.
That is the best photo of a hand.
Oh my God. A hand.
If you could see it on the book.
I know that was really good.
That is.
Carter, you're in my group too, I think. In it, I'm pretty sure you're in my group. I want post. Is there any way you can post the link to your books? I don't know if you've got it. Have you got your books on your page on Facebook? If so, then I can just share them over to the group. I want to post your books in there because I'm sure there's going to be some people wanting to buy them. I want to buy these books. I want to post them in the group.
They're very nice books. Well, you can go to www.relichominid.com. RELICHOMINID.
Yes.
And they're $22 a piece. I'm selling them both for $35, and I'll eat the shipping. They're full color, 250 pages. If you want some bizarre to the very mundane, they're here. I mean, I've got everything in here. It's like if you don't know anything about it, or if you're a grizzled veteran who knows a lot, the second book will just blow your mind. But I'll send you the link. I'll PM you the link, and you can post it if you want.
Absolutely. I want to put that in the group because somebody's going to want to see that.
It's awesome stuff, and I just taped a pilot for a potential paranormal show, which I can't mention because they're still deciding if they're going to use it. But they saw this photo and said, get this guy. Because this photo was like, they saw that, they were just like, oh, where did you get,
Yes.
And there's a great story behind that, but you don't have time. I know you got to get off and everything. So
I got to go pack now. I'm kind of nervous. We're getting ready to go down to the LBL for this Dogman Cryptic Conference tomorrow. That's with Josh Turner. We got like a, I won't promote that real quick, but Josh Turner and Ken Gerhardt are hosting this event. And I know that there's a whole lineup of people that's going to be there. D.A. Roberts. I don't want to leave anybody out because it's a huge thing. But, I mean, it's a lot of people. D.A. Roberts is going to be there. No Jody Cook, Nick Valenti. He likes to Nick Valenti, I think Kenny, the cryptopunkologist. There's so many people in this. Barton Donnelly. I'm trying not to leave anybody out, but it's so many people. It's probably like 10 to 12 different speakers going to be there. Josh Nanokio from What Lurks Beneath. It's a great lineup. I think y'all like. It's actually going to be the 12th and the 13th. Tomorrow was the meet and greet for the people who actually bought the VIP tickets. So all the speakers and panelists, and then the people who bought VIP tickets that are going to be like the fans, I guess the guests that are there, they will also get to meet and greet with the speakers and panelists. They're going to be there for that that Friday night. And then that Saturday night is the conference from 9 to 7. So any of y'all, all you have to do is go to eventbrite.com. And basically, if you go on there, that's where you can purchase the tickets for this event. I'm excited. I'm nervous about it. Oh, yeah, Marquetta, I forgot. Vault of Nightmares. Vault is going to be there. Ron Murphy. Thank you, Vincent. Steve Stockton. I think Josh told me the other night, I think Tuesday night, he said Steve Stockton wasn't going to be able to make it now. But it's a long lineup on there. Lyle Blackburn. I forgot to bring him up, too. So, anyway, y'all wish us luck. I'm not going to be going out into the woods. I'm going to let y'all know that right now. They want to go out on nighttime investigation.
I'm gonna take you out in the woods one night, girlfriend. I'll wake you up.
Oh my God. We're gonna need a whole armed team for me to feel comfortable to go out there. I need to be like in a bulletproof tank.
No, they're not gonna hurt you. They're very interested, especially in women and children. So my research area, they're very tame. It's very interesting. It'll get your attention. I've got stories I haven't even told you, but some of the ones I told the other night. But
I'm gonna have you back on again because I got more questions for you, and I know some of the people that's out there do. And then Call of the Crow, if you still out there, the offer still stands and still open for you after I come back because I don't have people scheduled for next week. I'm trying to get more people on because I had to reschedule a couple of people this week because I was just tired. It's been an exhausting week. I've got to get packed because I'm like a last minute person, late on everything. I've got to get all this stuff together for the show. So I'm going to say good night to y'all. Man of Light, everybody who showed up tonight, Nate Wilson, Vincent Richardson, Marquetta, Shoddy Boy Videos, Richard Reed. I mean, so many people showed up. I really appreciate y'all. Thank y'all. Carter has been a great guest. I'm going to have him back on the show again, and I've got other people lined up for y'all too. Pygmy Poacher, thank you. Bite X Dynasty. Vincent Treewell. I try to kind of just make sure I give people a thanks whenever I see them in here because, everybody doesn't have to show up, but I really appreciate it. Into the Night, Bigfoot. So everybody that showed up tonight, Cryptiville, if I missed you, then just know that I appreciate everyone. And I'm going to say good night. And you guys, we will see you on the next show. Good night, y'all. Good night.
See ya. Enjoyed it.